Welcome to Blackbird Writers Presents. I am Tracy S. Phillips, and today I am talking to Luella Schmidt. Luella is the author of the America This Week series on Medium, where she writes about the state of the world's democracies. She comes from a farming and military family, and she serves as the board president of the Wisconsin Writers Association, which is a volunteer-run nonprofit whose mission is to encourage, educate, celebrate, and promote writers. You can also catch her co-hosting the Wisconsin Writers Association podcast, Midwest Writers Room. And that's where I met Luella. Thanks for
Hi,
joining me
Tracy.
today. Hi, how are you?
It's so nice to see you again. Thank you so much for being on the podcast with us before. It was great to meet you then, and I'm so pleased to be with you again.
Yeah. And there's a lot of great reasons to be having this conversation today. Because first of all, you and I seem to have figured out that this writing community is is a pretty cool place to be. Um,
For sure.
yeah, and you are currently the board president of the Wisconsin Writers Association. So how did you get involved with that group?
Well, I am relatively new to hanging out with writers at all. I had a whole career as a CPA. I started my own small business for about 16 years. I did that, and I decided around age 50 that I was really bored and kind of burnt out and ready to do something different. And I had writing projects along the side since I was a kid. On and off, but never really kind of gave it my all, never went to conferences, never tried to, really study the craft much more than the average reader does. And and so I just kind of went looking for, well, if I want to pursue this and really make an effort, where are my people? How do I find, other writers and what's the landscape like? And I stumbled upon the Wisconsin Writers Association, and it's $35 a year. I said, okay, I'm going to become a member and just see what they've got going on. And soon enough, there was an email through them that there was an opening as a board member for a treasurer. And I thought, oh, of all things, this has got to be a sign. This is like the merging of my two worlds, right? And so I responded and volunteered for that role, and that's how I got involved.
What was your previous job then? And how was that a good fit for you?
My previous job, you mean my little business?
Yeah.
Is that what you're? Yeah. So my business was called Fine Point Consulting. It still exists. I had a group of employees that banded together and bought it, and it still is running. And we served small businesses and small nonprofits with accounting and human resources, kind of that fractional model of service. So people could have a kind of elevate those functions in their organization without having to, pay the big full-time salaries to do so.
And so becoming a board member for this organization was not a big segue then for you.
Right. The board, yeah, working with boards is something that I've done for that whole career. And so, that part was the executive part was very much the same. And the nonprofit experience was a good fit. A lot of the job is you read the mission, and the celebrating writers is something that comes very natural to me too. So it's a good fit
Yeah.
that way too.
Oh, that's cool. Um, so I want to ask you a lot about the Wisconsin Writers Association because there's so much I know that they can offer to writers. But first, what other groups are you involved in? On your website, it says that you've started up another business or another group of writers. Tell us about that.
So this is the Mirror in the Sky group. So this is sort ideally it would attract writers. It has not really, but it has attracted, roughly, I don't know, I think we're at 350-ish people who are part of this little group of mine. And I was just a few years ago, a couple of years ago now, I think. I was thinking about um, I had free time. I had sold my business and I had more free time than I'd ever had. And I wanted to fill it somewhat meaningfully and not completely mindlessly. And so I decided I wanted to read the 100 best novels and listen to the 100 best albums and watch the 100 best movies. And I would just sort of do this, on the side. And then a little while later, I was like, this is kind of fun. Maybe other people might want to do it with me and we could like have a little meetup and discuss it. And so I set up an account on Meetup, which is like an online organizing tool. And that's where other people are now kind of joining along and following us on this top 100 quest. And so I think I'm at in the 20s for all of them now. And so if it's been really educational on all fronts and it's sort of self-selecting. So for example, if we have an album by the Beatles, we will but just naturally a bunch of big Beatles lovers will come and attend and share their wealth of knowledge about that particular band. And so it's really fun that way and helps to kind of deepen the experience, whether it's movies or novels or music.
Oh, that's really cool. I like that a lot. Just like continuing the conversation about the creativity that is, that's already out there. That's really cool. So you are also a writer. I know that you write nonfiction. So tell us a little bit about what you write on Medium.
So on me, well, I don't just write nonfiction. My
I know.
biggest goal is still to be a novelist. Like that is actually my long-term goal. And I dabble in everything else. The way that I look at it is that I practice with everything else as a way of just sort of practicing my writing. And I really am kind of out exploring this cool art and different things, and then I try to use my writing skills to report back on what I am learning. And so it's a mixture of nonfiction and fiction. But certainly on Medium, it's a lot of fiction. I did the America This Week series for a while there, just because the disinformation that was flowing was hard to keep track of, and I thought it was sort of a worthwhile topic. Um, and I have quite a few stories on spirituality. Those are all nonfiction and just like my perspective and just things that are interest to me. And so it's kind of all over the board. My novel that is a work in progress, I've kind of put to the side at the moment because I'm working on a series of short stories. At least I'm pretty sure it's going to be a series of short stories called Soul Circus. And I have the first one is in first draft form and is getting edited at the moment. So I
Oh,
put the
that's
novel
exciting.
aside. Yeah, I'm really I was inspired by my goddaughter Amelia, who is 12. Hello, Amelia. And we were just watching some fun TV shows together at Thanksgiving, and I was inspired. It was, the idea of Soul Circus is basically it's set in a forest, and the main character is Renard the fox. And it's a fun, silly romp adventure. In the forest that takes place with a sidekick called Maggie the Magpie. And then
So
the overall goal is
sorry to
what?
interrupt, is it for adults or children?
It is for adults, whimsical adults.
I love it. I
I
love
mean,
it.
we'll see. But the overall goal, I just wanted to share. It's sort of about, processing trauma. I mean, it's actually a little bit of a deeper sort of meaning, but it's surrounded by some romps and adventures and silliness. And there's otters and frogs and, a squirrel float parade and things like that around it. But it's a serious message. And so that's kind of what I'm kicking the year off with. And it's been a really fun project so far.
Oh, that's awesome. It sounds like a lot of fun. So you have to like keep me updated and let us know if you are getting that published soon.
I will.
Yeah. Um, so managing an organization is a skill that not a lot of folks have. But you are the board president of the Wisconsin Writers Association. So, like, tell us a little bit more about that group and how can writers get involved and what kind of things do you offer for authors, writers?
Yeah. Well, this is a group, first of all, that has been around since 1948, and it's got so much cool history and sort of storied, unique things that it's done over the years, and it morphs and changes. Right now, I think I would say the biggest benefit is community. There's just opportunities to actually meet people online and in person, other writers at similar stages, other writers in your genre. And then so community, beyond community, we also do, we have the podcast, which is a nice way to um, meet other writers in our area as well, and service providers that, help writers. And then beyond that, we have a lot of educational programming. So, we will do critique groups where, that actually is probably the single biggest thing that elevated my own writing was the first time I joined a critique group because it forces you to not only accept critique and be able to, accept it graciously and, and use it properly and to your advantage, but also it just by giving helpful feedback, it forces you to look at your own writing, I think, a little bit better. At least that's how I felt, just to learn how to give feedback better. And there's other programming that we have. Like we also have for members free Zoom events every single month, which is on different topics. Like for Poetry Month, we might have a poetry reading. We have a planned event coming up in March for introduction to Substack for writers who want to try to make a living there or, explore it a little bit. And there's writing contests, there's opportunities to, we have a literary magazine that's been around, Creative Wisconsin magazine has been around for a long time, and there's opportunities to get published there and read other writers there. Um, so all kinds of things. I think but the community and education are probably the two biggest reasons that we exist and the things that we look out for to
Yeah,
help our members with.
and it's an enormous resource. I know that well, I think there's also like some classes and tutorials that you guys offer. And not only that, but now you're hosting once a year a conference.
Yep, yep. The conference has been around for a long time too, and we're looking at ways to improve on that and possibly even do something a little more, make have a little more physical presence around the state. But in the meantime, yeah, we have a once a year, 2 day or day and a half conference that we have been going to different cities throughout the state to host. And that's just really fun. Our last one in October was just in beautiful La Crosse, and the trees were like perfect for us. It was everything was beautiful. And it was a wonderful event. We got to listen to Sam Chang and Ann Garvin were our keynotes and high note speakers, and the vendor book fair was fun. We had agents, a little agent roundtable explain things on how things work from their side of the industry. And so, yeah, it was a really fun event and a beautiful location.
Yeah, that's awesome. And what's the website just to so that our viewers know for sure?
Yeah, wiwrite.org.
Oh, yeah,
Right,
great.
like writing.
Yeah, I love it. Um, so you said that you're working on novel length fiction. What what genre are you writing in?
So my work in progress is I guess I would call it a political thriller. Um, but it's also I was writing a satire and I'm as I am setting it aside for now and working on this other project, in the back of my mind, I am wondering whether I might actually move on from it longer and just I also have sort of a very like one page list of notes for a mystery series that I've had in my mind for a couple of years, Mississippi River Chronicles. I even have a name.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I'd rather have a character clearer in my head, but that's starting to come too. So I might move on to that, but I have this it's at 52,000 words, my novel, my satire novel, and I'm just not quite sure how I want to end it. And I keep it's sort of just I thought I knew how I wanted it to end, and now things are just up in the air, and I don't know. So I might set it aside. We'll see.
So it sounds like you're more of a plotter than a pantser.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, if you think about my brain, I've been trained, my brain has been trained to think about the world in systems. I had to learn a system of language, which was accounting, and then I had to learn how business works, which is a system, and now and nonprofits and I do look at writing a little bit, you have to caution against being too formulaic, of course, but I do think of a scene as a system of conveying information, and that is kind of how my brain works. But there's no system for just that, the beauty and the random gorgeous sentence that comes out from seemingly nowhere that kind of makes you go, okay, let's do more of that, please.
Yeah, nice. Um, so that must have been maybe a little bit of a transition for you to go from that like accounting world to the creative world. What's that been like for you?
Um, that has been so on the one hand, it has been weirdly seamless because I don't know I've never really felt so at home as I do now in my life. I mean, this nice balance of sort of executive skills needed for the board of WWA and the rest of it sort of being more creative is like just perfect for me. So that part I really like. I did when I left, when I sold my small business, I was really, really tired and burnt out, much more than I realized. And I think even just, and that was in, I think 2021 is when I officially, or 2020 is when I stepped away. And even just, these few years later, I'm still sort of seeing exactly how much that affected me and how I still have a very strong aversion to email because I was chained to it for all of those years, chained to it. We had an expectation on returning emails within a certain time, and so I do find some resistance in bringing some of that structure back into my life from the parts that I associate with the burnout. So
Yeah.
like there's some interesting kind of things happening there, but overall it's a really just a wonderful place to be. I'm very grateful.
Yeah, that's great. Do you have any suggestions for authors? I mean, I think that email is a problem for a lot of people. I mean, it is for me too, because I manage a couple of different groups as well. And, and I'm always conversing with editors, with people in the industry, or you're querying or whatever. So email is a huge part of this
Yeah.
existence, right?
Yeah.
So do you have any suggestions for anyone who to deal with that kind of, maybe stress?
Yeah. Well, my usually what works for me, and this is again my systems brain, is like so take it and batch your tasks together. So set a timer for 20 minutes and do email 20 minutes in the morning and then 20 minutes whatever at lunch if you have that much need to, and then 20 minutes in the afternoon, and that should be enough to keep on top of it. It depends on your particular life. That might be way too little. I don't know. I can't, that's not going to cover
Right.
everybody. But that's kind of how I keep my house clean is 10 minutes a day. And that's a big giant caveat that it's just two adults and no children. But, that's like, this little tiny burst of energy to sort of manage it. That seems to be the best for me anyway.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Thanks. So, where can our viewers find your short stories or more information about you?
Yeah. My website is luellaschmidt.com, and you can get to everything from there. You can get to the Medium page, you can get to the little meetup group for Mirror in the Sky where we do the top 100. You can get to all of my writing basically from there.
Awesome. And one more time with the website for the Wisconsin Writers Association.
Yeah, wiwrite.org.
Awesome. Thanks so much for chatting with me today, Luella. This has been great.
Thank you so much, Tracy. It's been fun.